I'd like to welcome you to Topic 2 in our journey through institutional effectiveness. Topic 1 provided you with an overview of institutional effectiveness, tracing its origins and defining its terms. In Topic 2, we will discuss what is actually involved in the process of institutional effectiveness on the community college campus. Many people, including community college faculty and administrators, consider institutional effectiveness a confusing and convoluted process that permeates all aspects of the college. These people are correct in assuming that institutional effectiveness permeates all aspects of a community college, but the process itself is simple in conception, though difficult in implementation and execution. It is similar to planning a road trip. We can envision the trip as a simple journey from point A to point B to point C and so on and so forth until we reach our ultimate destination, point Z. We can use a map to guide us to our destination, and tracing our journey in the map is relatively straightforward and simple. Finally, we can take the road trip, which is where the tire hits the road, as they say, and things get more complicated. The trip involves all sorts of things, including our automobile, gasoline, meals, lodging, and the travel itself, and it may take a long time to complete. As is the case with many things in life, the process or the trip itself is often more enjoyable than the product or the final destination. To conceptualize the institutional effectiveness process, think of a circle. At the top is purpose, which points down toward the right, toward goals, and then to the bottom, toward evaluation, then back up to the left, toward use of results, and then finally, completing the circle, back to the top, toward purpose. The purpose of a community college, its programs and services, as written in a mission statement, drives the institutional effectiveness process, because what we want to do is show whether that purpose is fulfilled and how well it is fulfilled. From the purpose, we want to formulate goals or objectives, which are similar to directions on a map, used to determine whether the purpose is achieved. Evaluation is the actual process of measuring the goals and objectives to determine whether they were accomplished and whether they met certain expectations or standards. Using these evaluation results, community colleges can not only determine whether the purpose is appropriate and refine it as necessary, but also they can improve their programs and services. This cyclical process was well articulated in the SACS criteria for accreditation. As noted in Section 3.1, the institution must, 1, establish a clearly defined purpose appropriate to collegiate education. 2, formulate educational goals consistent with the institution's purpose. 3, develop and implement procedures to evaluate the extent to which these educational goals are being achieved. 4, use the results of these evaluations to improve educational programs, services, and operations. The same cyclical process for non-academic programs and services was also well articulated by SACS. As noted in Section 3.2, the institution must, 1, establish a clearly defined purpose which supports the institution's purpose and goals. 2, formulate goals which support the purpose of each unit. 3, develop and implement procedures to evaluate the extent to which these goals are being achieved in each unit. 4, use the results of the evaluation to improve administrative and educational support services. When used to evaluate student learning or academic programs, the cyclical process can be described in slightly different terms. First, learning objectives are established. Learning objectives are similar to mission statements in that both establish what it is to be achieved. Second, learning outcomes are formulated. These are similar to goals in that both provide direction on how to achieve the desired results. Third, the learning outcomes are assessed or evaluated. And finally, the assessment results are used to refine the learning objectives and improve student learning in academic programs. This simple but effective cyclical process permeates all aspects of evaluation and assessment at the community college, including student assessment, academic program evaluation, administrative support service evaluation, and other functions as appropriate. At many institutions, it even forms the basis for faculty evaluations. Now let's look at each of the four elements of the institutional process in a little more detail. The purpose or mission statement is a broad statement explaining the purpose of the community college, academic program, administrative unit, or support service. It indicates what we hope to achieve. One problem from an assessment viewpoint with many community college mission statements is that they are either too broad in scope or too idealistic in nature. A statement that the community college exists to serve the population of a specified geographic region is both appropriate and can be assessed by such measures as enrollment statistics or population penetration rates. A statement to the effect that the purpose of the community college is to enhance the education of its students or of the citizens of its service region is much broader, but can be assessed to a certain degree by using such measures as course completion rates, graduation rates, and the like. A statement, however, that the college will ensure that all individuals are provided a continuing opportunity to develop and extend their skills and knowledge and to cultivate an awareness of their roles and responsibility in society is more tenuous and difficult to evaluate. To continue using our metaphor of the road trip, goals and objectives are the signposts along the way showing how the purpose will be achieved. One important aspect of goals or objectives mentioned in educational literature is that they should be measurable. In this respect, quantifiable goals are often preferred over qualitative goals. Still, as a practitioner in the field, I feel that qualitative goals do have their place in community college institutional effectiveness. Used sparingly and evaluated in strong narrative form, qualitative goals can be used effectively to assess goals and outcomes. Another important aspect found in the literature with regard to student learning outcomes is that these should be faculty-driven. Faculty should develop them and feel a sense of ownership over them. As Jim Nichols points out on page 157 of A Roadmap for Improving of Student Learning Through Assessment, faculty must have primary responsibility and concomitantly ultimate authority for setting the educational outcomes within their respective academic departments. For any other group to do so would be usurping the power of the faculty over curriculum and course development. In fact, a major source of faculty resistance to the assessment movement in higher education is a perceived threat to their academic freedom in the selection of course content and instructional methods, the development of testing procedures that might not be educationally sound for the discipline, and the establishment of grading standards. While this is true, in my experience, most community college faculty will need considerable assistance in formulating learning outcomes. And this is where you, as an institutional effectiveness practitioner, come into play. This step in the institutional effectiveness process often draws attention away from the other three steps. While evaluation measures must be carefully designed, evaluation itself is merely a tool used to determine whether in fact goals and objectives have been achieved. As such, it is important to establish meaningful standards by which to measure achievement. In many cases, these will be numerical, as for instance enrollment targets or retention rates, but in others they can be qualitative, depending upon reflection and professional judgment to ascertain achievement. Another point to remember is that many, if not most, community college faculty are not trained in evaluation techniques. They will need your assistance as a trained institutional research professional in assessing student learning outcomes. Based on my personal experience as a SACS peer reviewer, Within the SACS accrediting region, this fourth and final step is the one most often leading to recommendations by peer review committees. Several reasons exist for this. First, while evaluation results are often used by faculty and administrators to improve academic programs or support services, documentation is often lacking. Second, once objectives have been evaluated, too many administrators and faculty feel the job is done. Third, too often, narrative explaining the use of results does not really link back to the evaluation results themselves. Finally, documenting how a program or support service was improved by evaluation results is challenging and difficult. As a SACS peer reviewer, I often encountered statements too vague to be meaningful, statements merely indicating that the goal was achieved, or statements couched in the future tense, indicating that improvement was still pending. Remember, using the results is a crucial step, as it is the link completing the circle and ensuring that evaluation benefits the community college. What about evaluating institutional effectiveness itself? Too often, this is neglected. To ensure that the institutional effectiveness process is itself effective, a number of principles of good practice have been established, and these will be explored in Lesson 2. Briefly then, this is a description of the process involved in institutional effectiveness. What we've done in this lesson is establish a number of principles of good practice in institutional effectiveness to be used in community college campuses. These will be explored in further detail in Lesson 2.